Palos
ocean,
Verdes,
as you can see,
California.
actually fronts. Very few courses front on the Pacific Ocean. It's Pebble Beach, and there's some others, but I always say I have the ocean, Pebble Beach has the bay. The ocean's better than the bay. And this course is one of the best courses anywhere in the world, and it's done really well, and we've had a lot of fun with it, so it's been great. It's a major property, as you can imagine. We do also lots of weddings and lots of events, and in the ballroom right behind you. And people get married literally on a nightly basis looking over the Pacific Ocean. So we have something that's very special. We're proud of it. Well, thank you all for being here. Before we begin, I want to express my support for all of the families affected by the landslides in Rancho Palos Verdes. The slides are something can be taken care of. This area is very solid. But you go down a couple of miles down, you'll see something that's pretty amazing. The mountain is moving, and it can be stopped, but they need some help from the government, so I hope they get the help, and I'm sure John will have the help. And I want to thank the mayor for the great job he's doing. I tell that to the people, what a great job he's doing. I just met with the mayor, and especially want to salute all of the public safety and emergency personnel who are working down the road, as well as the utility workers who are fighting to restore service to local residents. It's another thing when you live along the coast. Sometimes that happens. It's a little bit more difficult, but when they fix it, there's nothing like it. There really is nothing like it. I'm here today in California with a very simple message for the American people. We cannot allow Comrade Kamala Harris and the communist left to do to America what they did to California. The state of California is a mess with people leaving, and nothing's going to stop them. They're going to other states. Some are going to other countries. But what they've done, Gavin Newsom and Kamala, and I want to say Kamala more so, she destroyed San Francisco and she destroyed the state. When you look at the kind of destruction that's taken place, it's all man-made or woman-made destruction, too. It's things that should have never happened, but we're not going to let that happen with 4 more years of her in the White House, because if you have what happened to this country as what they allowed to happen in California and San Francisco, one of the great cities of the world 15 years ago, and today it's not in a very good position, to put it mildly, in this state, which is probably the best piece of real estate in the world. This state, you have the sunshine, you have the ocean, you have everything. You have the perfect weather, the best weather, and they've hurt it so badly, so badly. Decades ago, San Francisco was known as one of the most beautiful cities anywhere in the world. A friend of mine, a friend of a lot of the people here, Bob Tisch, used to say San Francisco is the best city in the United States, the best city there is. And he passed away a number of years ago, but he wouldn't believe it. He used to always talk about San Francisco as our greatest city. He owned Lowe's, good company, great company. And he would say it constantly, and now you see what's happened. And it can be brought back, just like our country can be brought back, because we're a nation in decline. The decline of this whole state is one of the sad chapters in what's gone on with the radical left lunatics that we have to put up with. As the San Francisco district attorney, Kamala was the godmother of sanctuary cities. She was right out there at the forefront, and also the movement of defunding the police. She was there right at the beginning. She boasted, quote, "We are a sanctuary city, and we always will be." Well, they're sanctuary cities of crime. One of the people that Kamala gave sanctuary city to and put in as DA was Edwin Ramos, an illegal alien MS-13 gang member who savagely murdered a father and his 2 sons after mistaking them for members of a rival gang. She knew this, and she came to his defense. He had previously been arrested for robbing a pregnant woman and killing many, they say. Kamala refused to get him out of our country. and he went on to do very significant damage. She also gave sanctuary to illegal alien Ronnie Aguilera, who murdered a 14-year-old boy, nearly decapitating him with a sword. He enjoyed watching this take place with a sword by his hand. Kamala launched her tenure as DA with a San Francisco police group described as a, quote, fire sale for plea deals. They made plea deals. The only one they don't make a plea deal with is Trump. They go after their political opponent, especially when they haven't done anything wrong. You saw more charges were dropped yesterday in Atlanta, Georgia. It's all politically inspired. It's all against their political opponent. We won the case in the big case. They said the big case, the big case. I've completely won that case. The documents case in Florida. The case was thrown out with deranged Jack Smith, deranged prosecutor, that if he devoted his efforts to violent crime and to the border, which they should have, would be in a lot better position as a country. In one sweetheart deal, Kamala gave only 12 years to a monster known as David Taylor, who got high on crack and murdered a 65-year-old mother with a hammer and a pair of scissors. He wanted to come out, and she wanted to get him out as quickly as possible. In another plea deal, she gave only 6 years to a man who killed a disabled veteran with a knife and then left his body to rot in a bathtub. Kamala refused to seek the death penalty for a gang member who murdered San Francisco police officer Isaac Espinoza during a traffic stop, very innocent traffic stop. To explain her decision, why would you do this? Why would you give such leniency to somebody that just killed his officer's son? They made the San Francisco Police Officers Association has refused her single race since she became district attorney. The police don't endorse her.
All right, so we're
She's
taking
got virtually no endorsements now, but I have almost every police.
We're taking some hits in this live shot here, but basically what you're seeing is the former president there in Rancho Palos Verdes. Sorry about the shot. There we go. We did get another angle. We can actually see our Terry Moran, who's there at this press conference. But this is what we're going to start seeing since the debate. The former president he likes to hold press conferences at his various properties as he makes it from not only state to state campaigning, but he's choosing, comfortable places for him. This is Trump National, one of his courses, where immediately when he stepped up to the mic, started talking about the beautiful scenery and what a nice golf course he has. But now jumping right into issues of immigration, a topic that we know right now voters really look to him on. He does very well on the issue of immigration. But after the debate and a lot of things that were said that were extremely controversial, this sort of seems to be one of those policies that both candidates now are jumping onto and talking about, whether it's a press conference here or at a rally. So we'll talk to Terry once this wraps up, but we've got our Catherine Falders with us as well, who, Catherine, it just sort of was kind of a meandering moment, but he started talking about sanctuary cities and, again, talking about certain crime in certain cities related to immigration. I don't know, what do you make of this so far?
Yeah, Kira, it's a good question. And what you said about, meandering, I was trying to follow a bit of, before we jumped out of that, what he was talking about and what he was saying. And I think he was getting into the what you just mentioned, the immigration element of this. Look, he wants to continue to talk about immigration since the debate. We know that he wants to focus on those sorts of issues that we hear him talk about a lot, the economy and immigration. He was using this as an opportunity, and I know, of course, he's still speaking there, but he was using at least the beginning of his remarks here to attack Harris for various different things. I think he was going after her number of endorsements that maybe she had gotten from law enforcement around the country. I wasn't sure what he was saying there. But the campaign is also using this, at least from some of what Trump's advisors have put on social media. You mentioned he's in California. He's at one of his clubs, one of his courses there that he talked about in the beginning. But they're also also saying he's in California because he's in Kamala Harris's home state, and he wanted to give remarks to the press there. So who knows? He is still talking. I see right there. Who knows if he's going to take any questions? Kira, you remember last time he did this at Trump Tower. He said he was going to have a press conference. He didn't take any questions from the press. So who knows if this is just going to be remarks to the press with no questions, or if he actually will engage. I know our Terry Moran, as you mentioned, is standing right there, and surely will try and get a question to Trump. They are close up there, so let's see. But again, what his advisors are saying is he's trying to use this type of appearance as some sort of victory lap, if you will. I'm not sure how that squares given what he's already discussing, but we'll continue to listen to him and see what he says.
All right. We'll check back in, too, with Terry since he's there on the ground once it wraps up. Catherine, thank you. Take a quick break. More straight ahead.